G'day, this is Captain Noob and this is the Winchester P94, or a plasma caster if you recognise this sort of weapon from the earlier Fallouts. So, this mod adds a somewhat customizable standalone heavy energy weapon, and it uses the minigun animations which don't line up perfectly in a few things, but for the most part it works quite well. So we'll get into these attachments right now, and for the barrels, this is how you're going to change the way this thing fires. So the amplified plasmatron here actually works like a plasma flamer. It still has that minigun barrel spin up, which means it's a little bit less effective, but we've still got a pretty high ammo capacity when it comes to this thing, so it should be okay with that. We'll go for an amplified railgun though, because it's basically like the standard barrel, but we do much better damage there, so we'll move on from that. There's also a second barrel slot here that does the same thing. It's kind of weird. That's probably just a mishap with the modder there. And we can put on a gunner sight there that is exactly identical to the minigun gunner sight, and it actually doesn't line up to the where you're aiming properly, so that's a little bit of a shame. Now for the power plant cover, you can put a homemade cooler for a P94 that actually requires some antifreeze, duct tape and milk bottles, so a little bit less on the components rather than just a bit of junk items there, which is kind of irritating if you don't have these things at your settlement ready because you've already broken it down. But that actually gives us a lot more on the fire rate department at the expense of a little bit of accuracy, but you know what, I can live with that. This thing on its own is not entirely accurate. Neither are plasma casters in Fallout New Vegas either. I think that was one of their main downfalls. And we'll go for a crazy navel paint there because the vanilla paint means virginity and I ain't no virgin. So yeah, the crazy navel paint adds a little bit of an eye and a mouth there, kind of like the hot rod shark paints there. Gives the weapon a little bit more character, which is nice. There's also a leftover from what I believe is just the minigun creation club stuff there, so not sure why that's there. Maybe the modder just didn't bother to move it out, but doesn't matter, that's not going to be doing anything anyways. And of course a legendary effect slot is there, so we'll definitely make a flamer version of this. We'll take them into Gunner's Plaza and see what these bad boys can do. Okay, so here we are in Gunner's Plaza, and this is our plasma caster there, and while we've got our crosshairs centered on that turret over there, looks like the sights on this thing are misaligned there, which is going to suck because I'm going to aim at people like that, but that's going to be nowhere bloody near them. Anyways, looking at this thing in third person, it looks pretty good. It doesn't exactly dwarf us like you would with a big tiger gun, but you know, that's a little bit more of a different weapon there. Going over to the flamer one there with a different barrel, yeah, it looks pretty good. We've also got the particles going, so yeah, hopefully it should be good. You're actually able to see where the flamer thing is firing rather than just a little bit of a muzzle flash and people dying for no particular reason. Okay, we'll get stuck into these gunners and we'll see how this thing performs. We'll just trip over that bin there without being detected, and we'll line these gunners up so the massive recoil on this thing really doesn't matter all that much. So as you can tell, this thing does like to kick a bit. I'm controlling a little bit now, but as you can tell, I'm sort of janking around the screen like that because it's pulling in several different directions with each bullet, so that's kind of weird. I'm just going to let it go on. I'm just going to target that turret down there as soon as I take out old mate Conscript there. So center it on him, and then we'll spin the barrel up, and this is the recoil without me controlling it, which is a little bit high. Even the minigun's recoil isn't that much, nor the Gatling laser, so that kind of sucks. But we'll move on. When you fire this weapon, it has the same sounds as a minigun barrel spinning, but it seems to be overlaid with some different sounds. Just the sounds of the plasma projectiles. There's no actual kick or pop as the projectile sounds. You know, the plasma bullets sort of come out of the thing, which kind of sucks. But anyways, as we move into tighter close quarters, we might as well bring out our flamer one here. We'll use this in third person just for getting staggered by gun bashers, and as you can tell, we can toast these gunners pretty easily. It's nice using this thing, or plasma flamers in general, with particles, because it makes it actually able to see where we're firing this thing, but I'm pretty sure the pocket flamer, or the plasma pistol, just with the flamer barrel in the vanilla game, is going to be superior than this anyway. Although this thing does fire the more plentiful fusion cells, so that's something to consider. If you're a big fan of the plasma caster anyway, I'd probably recommend getting the Junk Master mod, because that one's plasma caster is actually really good. But if you don't want your whole game to be changed around you just for getting a plasma caster weapon, then I suppose it's a decent idea to grab this one instead. The meshes and textures are pretty good. They're not exactly accurate to what they were in the original Fallout, but I do like the originality. Ooh, nice kick there, Gunner, and I can't actually get you at that close range. That's interesting. Now, I'd kind of like this to have a shredder effect along with the, oh, there's Captain Bridget there, and we actually murdered her very, very quickly there, but I think she shot me twice with her damage over time gun, so we might die yet. We'll hope not, we won't. Switching over to our bullet one once again, we'll try to aim down sights here and get a feel of what these sights like. As you can tell, the little box there, little square, oh my god, this is terrible. Okay, if we want to use this thing at range, I suppose we ought to use VATS, yes. Yep, that'll do them in. Okay, with all these damage increasing perks, that's really helping us out. Now we should be able to finish off the last couple of gunners as easy as that. Almost died, but you know what, we punched through Gunner's Plaza very quickly whilst playing very aggressively with a heavy weapon, which if you're using a standard minigun or a Gatling laser without any mods, that would have taken much longer. So yeah, in terms of power, this thing really has it, but the recoil really makes you pay for it with the recoil. But yeah, with the flamer one though, that seems to be less sort of, you know, apparent. Also, it uses the minigun animations, as I said before, and when you do reload this thing, I'll just fire off a bullet, you grab nothing and load it back in. I really would have thought the Gatling laser sort of animations would have worked for this better, because if I tilt the camera to the side and step into the light a bit, you can see there's actual plasma, the fusion cells there, just under the milk bottle, so I feel like that would have worked better, but maybe there's some different limitations with the Gatling laser that doesn't really work for this particular weapons thing. But anyways, that was the plasma caster there in, oh, there's also lots of dust particles around because I enabled that. That's something I haven't seen in Gunner's Plaza for a long time. Oh, Fallout 4, how I like to destroy your graphics to make it run good on my computer. We'll move on to something else. Okay, so here we are in Fallon's department store, and I want to make this thing as powerful as we possibly can without using any cams or anything like that. And my running theory here is if we use this thing exclusively in VATS, popping criticals whenever we can actually make this thing better. Now, since this is an automatic heavy weapon, we've got a few things going for us when it comes to this. First of all, we get a 10-shot burst every VATS shot, so every one of these 10 shots will be a critical, which is great. We can greatly increase our DPS with our criticals rather than a semi-automatic rifle, or compared to a semi-automatic rifle, so that's good stuff there. As you can tell, we took out both of those super mutants very easily, but we had some sneak attack crits with us too, which was very, very useful indeed. Not really usually easy to come by sneak attack criticals, but I think once we get detected, the sneak attack crit fun will be over there. We managed to take out that guy without any trouble, but we are almost on the verge of being detected. We'll find out who that one was, and then we'll quickly end his pathetic, miserable, moody life. In fact, we can snipe this guy all the way from over here, so why the hell not? That was a nice view of the weapon firing, but we didn't actually see his reaction shot until now, I suppose. So he goes down very, very easily. He's only an enforcer, so you wouldn't expect him to take as much of a beating. But, oh, look at the range on this thing. You can just rip apart people from there. So maybe this thing is a sort... Oh, we are slipping out of danger real fast there. Or caution. Interesting. Okay, looks like I found this thing sort of sweet spot there, although once we run out of crits it might be a little bit harder to keep this up. We'll go for another burst on this dude with a crit, and now we're out. Now, whilst I'm using this thing with a barrel that actually fires projectiles, I'm wondering if the flamer one is glitched just like the flamer projectiles or whatever are in VATS, where you can actually just hit them with nothing and consume no ammo, but they'll still react like they're being shot. Whilst we have got all of our crits back in basically one shot there, yeah, looks like this thing is indeed a little bit glitched in VATS, but that's fine. Since this thing has barely no recoil and a fairly decently wide cone of fire, come back here, you bastard, come on. Accept your mutant fate of being melted into a pile of goo. Oh, now the dogger is getting involved. Yeah, so it's interesting how the flamer glitch sort of happens to this thing as well. Maybe it's something to do with heavy weapons. I've heard somebody say it's actually the projectile that does that. But yeah, maybe it is actually more to do with... there are actually super mutant reinforcements down here. Maybe it's some that didn't actually, you know, cover or kill on my approach to this place. But nonetheless, we'll try to get some easy kills on these dudes. That one's got an aviator cap. Looks like a super mutant master from Fallout 3. Actually, that next one's only a basic super mutant, so he'll go down probably in one shot regardless. And then there's a super mutant suicider there. I'm not even afraid of him. See, at high levels, you can basically ignore them. They're not even a threat anymore. Okay, let's take our granny holding a friggin' plasma caster into this next room. That's something that baffles me. For some reason, this particular character is being called a granny on multiple occasions. I've got no idea why. I think it's got something to do with how the specular lights and the lighting reacts to a regular hair. Maybe it makes it look super grey rather than blonde, which it actually is, but it's actually blonde, so, you know, whoever is saying this shit is probably just a fucking dumbass, or, you know. But yeah, those people, they earn themselves a ban on my channel. If they're gonna speak that shit, I don't want them fucking commenting on my channel again. They can get the fuck out. But anyways, we'll move on to whatever pests are left in this room. I just forgot about killing those guys before. And then we'll see to it that they die very, very quickly. Anyone for cooked rad roaches? They're surprisingly immune to my plasma fire if they're sitting behind chairs and such. And also this one doesn't give a shit. Maybe if I look at him in first person, yeah, that seems to get him pretty well. And with that last mutant doggo down, that is Felon's apartment store cleared. So yeah, despite my initial disappointment of this weapon when using it in real time, if you can pull out all of the crits and use this thing in VATS, this thing actually becomes something, you know, it's a force to be reckoned with now. So if you actually pick up this weapon, I do recommend you use it in a VATS-centric build. And if you don't want to use it in a VATS-centric build, then enjoy your inferior plasma caster. We'll move on to one more thing. Okay, let's see if we can use the same cheap VATS tactics against Swan here. So we'll just sit on this rock here in a sneaky crouch down position there, and he should have a little bit of trouble finding us. So we'll use this to our advantage as we go ahead and hit him with as many crits as we possibly can. I like when you crouch with a heavy weapon, you don't really crouch at all, you just sort of hunker down slightly. There's barely any difference whatsoever. I'm guessing the ergonomics of the weapons whilst crouching down like you would with any sort of rifle would make it very, very hard for you to maintain balance or even sort of hold the thing at all. But there we go. We're out of crits now. We've also got 2 back thanks to 4-leaf clover there, so that's nice. Now, whilst the flamer one doesn't do any damage there, I've actually, or if you saw the first sort of clip where I used it against a super mutant there and basically got all my crits back in 2 shots, is that maybe you could use that to exploit easy criticals. So with that in mind, there's usually a ghoul that spawns just over here, so there's just a gangrenous dude, so we might not be able to damage this guy at all, but oh, look at all those crits coming to us there. That's some crazy shit. Also, that's my console commands that I've been using throughout this video. Sometimes Swan gets himself into a little bit of trouble before videos and I have to actually reset his health for him to actually come back there. Took a little bit more rads than I wanted to there, but it's good to know that I've got those as an option if I need some free tactical ghoulish healing. Looks like this thing is incompatible with the penetrator perk, which kind of sucks because that is a very good perk to have, especially when you're taking out sentry bots. So you can target their fusion cores immediately without even having to wait for them to cool down if you've got the penetrator perk, so you can easily take out sentry bots with that. There's also a couple other things like targeting a Deathclaw's belly when he's got his back to you. Lots of good stuff. It's one of those good VATS perks. It's more of a quality of life perk than a sort of game breaking must have thing. So we're doing pretty well against Swan. Looks like my tactics of VATS crit spammery has served us well here, doing plenty of damage with those 10 shots in VATS all the time, especially when we're getting the crits in. It's raising to about 300. I think he's going for a rock throw. he actually took a swing at the mysterious stranger there. So whilst our AP are recovering, we'll just sneak over here. He usually likes to get himself jammed. Actually, we're going to put away our weapon so he can run faster. Yes, but he usually likes to get jammed between those two train cars, and today he didn't. So, you know, he's actually kind of switched on today. Also, there's some hammer and other tools there. That's useful. Okay, so we're on our way to having a full AP bar, and then it'll be lights out for old mate Swan. Might as well pop a reload while we're waiting. And here we go. Ah, yes, we didn't have any crits to start with. I probably should have thought of that before we actually did this, but I'm pretty sure we'll be fine. Whatever we don't do, we'll probably get back just with some standard shots. Never mind, we actually got him. Yes, the crits do so much more damage than the standard shots, so that's actually a huge gain there. So maybe if you actually want to make the minigun or a Gatling laser good without any of those perks there, obviously with the charging barrel, it's insanely good in VATS, but yeah, you could probably go well with a lucky VATS or a lucky minigun and Gatling laser. I'm pretty sure I've tested those things before back on PS4 and I was pretty impressed with them. But yeah, if you'd like to see this weapon in your game, I'm sure I've droned on long enough now, check out the description. It's on PC if there's a link on Xbox One that I can find. There, that's why I think people think she's a granny, because the blonde hair just seems to be full of specular reflections, and that's what happens. If I turn the flashlight off, see, it's blonde. Come on, guys. Open your damn eyes. Links in the description. Thank you for watching, guys.